Welcome to another episode of Salesforce Revenue Cloud Office Hours. In this week's episode, we're going to dive deeper into the subscriptions that we created last year for the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. If you remember from last week or need a refresher, I created 2 additional products to be sold as part of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. One of them is the peanut butter and jelly club membership, where I can join a community of like-minded peanut butter and jelly sandwich enthusiasts. And the other is peanut butter and jelly sandwich support for those times when I forget how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, if I need new ideas on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or maybe want suggestions on other types of food that I might enjoy. We configured the products to be a monthly product. In the case of the Peanut Butter and Jelly Club membership, it is $10 a month. And peanut butter and jelly sandwich support is $10 for 12 months. Right now, on my quote, I do not yet have a subscription start date and a term defined, which is why our values aren't exactly where I want them to be. But we can make that adjustment very quickly. From the quote, I can edit the record, set my start date for the subscriptions. In this case, I'll imagine they're going to start on the 1st of March. I'll set the subscription term to 12 and save the record. Now, Salesforce CPQ understands both the idea of a subscription term and the idea of an end date. You'll see here on the quote that we have an end date somewhere, probably. There it is, way down here at the bottom. A subscription term can be defined in one of 2 ways. In both ways, we're going to define a start date because we must know when the subscription begins and when it ends. The most common way to define when the subscription ends is to use the subscription term field, which is going to base the subscription term on the subscription term unit configured in the managed package. What does that mean? In the CPQ package, I have configured the subscription term unit field in the package settings to be month. What that means is wherever I see subscription term, the number in that field indicates the number of months for which I will have a subscription. The other value in the package is day. If I chose a value of day, then on this quote record, the number 12 would represent 12 days. We can get into more detail about the package settings in a future episode, but for now, we're going to keep it at month and understand that the start date is when my subscription begins. The subscription term is the number of months. Sometimes I'll see clients or end users populate the end date in addition to the subscription term or instead of the subscription term. In the second scenario, when I pick end date instead of the subscription term, then CPQ will prorate to that end date, that specific day. If instead I use subscription term and I put in a number of months in this case, because the subscription term unit of the package is months, CPQ will prorate 12 months. We'll have March 1st of 2024 to February 28th of 2025. Now, if I populate both the subscription term and the end date, there's a conflict here because we could potentially have given CPQ 2 different pieces of information. Let's imagine a scenario where the subscription term is 12, but I put an end date of 1 month from now. In that case, CPQ is going to prorate to the day 1 month from now, the 23rd of March. And the reason is that as a general theme inside of CPQ, the more specific a data point is, the higher it is on the priority list. In other words, if I assign both a subscription term of months, whole months at a time, and a subscription term end date of March 23rd, 2024, March 23rd, 2024 is a more specific and precise unit of time than entire month increments. Therefore, CPQ is going to prioritize the end date, and it will win, so to speak. This often gets confused when users will populate both the subscription term and the end date, and they'll plug in 12 months from now as end date because they think they need to do both. That's not the case. It is sufficient in CPQ to provide the start date and the subscription term because the package itself will prorate based on the subscription prorate precision in the managed package, which again, we can talk about in a future episode what those package settings do, and I can give some examples and some considerations around those settings and how they should function. You'll see that
So the date overrides the term.
yes, because it is a more precise unit of measure.
Got it.
CPQ tends to err on the side of precision and granularity. Another example would be on the pricing side, if I assign a discount of 10% to this quote, but on one of my quote lines, I assign a discount of 5% or 7% or 13%, then for that one quote line, there will be an exception to that quote level discount. Everything else will be 10% except the quote line that deviates from the standard established at the quote level. If I insert quote line groups in there as well, now we have a third layer of the data structure, quote, quote line group, and quote line. And I can mix and match the different discounts, and CPQ will discount accordingly based on how precisely the discount was applied. Going back into the line editor, just to make this a little easier to see, we're going to find that my peanut butter and jelly sandwich club membership, which is $10 per month, has been prorated and is now $720 because I've got $10 per month for 12 months, which we established at the quote level. That gets me $120 per membership per month times the six memberships that we have. Support, meanwhile, is $10 per year. Because I have the value of 12, it is now 10. The whole year is 10. If this was 6 months, I would see a value of 5 here because that's only half of the year and it will prorate accordingly. Or if it's 18, you'll see $15. CPQ is automatically going to do that proration behind the scenes for subscription products when I have them based on the start date and the duration of the quote, or the subscription for the quote rather, whether that's by subscription term, in this case months, or by the specific number of days that I provide. I want to end this on March 23rd, 2024. We can also make these adjustments in this screen, but I need to make a UI change first. This is the first time we're talking about this, but since we're on the topic, I'll go ahead and modify the quote line editor UI so that I don't have to continuously enter and exit the quote line editor to play around with the start date and the subscription term. To make that change, I go to the setup, navigate to the object manager, and I will find my quote object. You might see multiple quote objects in your org. Make sure that you go to the SBQQ _ quote object. The other object is the standard quote object that comes as part of Sales Cloud. We're focused on CPQ for this, so you want to find the object with this API name. Within here, we have a number of field sets. Field sets are collections of fields used in Visualforce pages and other places and we want to navigate to the line editor field set. The line editor field set on the quote object controls the fields that display on the top of the quote inside the quote line editor screen that we see here. In this case, I want to add the start date and the subscription term to my page. Once I save this, the changes will take effect as soon as I refresh the page. In this case, I'll hit the hard refresh, and I'll see that those two fields now appear at the top. Here's March 1st, when my subscription is going to begin, and the subscription term is 12. Generally, what I advise my clients is that in this screen, we want to use start date and subscription term, and if we use a quick action or lightning action or whatever the branding is now, we want to include start date and subscription term in most use cases. And the reason I don't want to show the user the end date is because if a user sees a field, they'll feel like they have to update it. And if they start updating it, but they type in the wrong date, for example, now they'll be confused on why is it prorating weird? Well, it's prorating weird because you've gone from March 1st to March 1st, and now it thinks it's 366 days and it's getting confused. Maybe you do want it to be 366 days. I don't know. But I think it's an easier user experience for the user to simply put in when they want it to begin with the start date and how long they want this quote and its subscriptions to last, in this case, 12 months. 80+% of the time, that's what I configure when I'm on projects, because most of the time, that's all the user cares about. Yeah, they want these products for 12 months. Cool. When do they want us to start? At the beginning of next month. Fantastic. Now we're good. As soon as we close this, we're going to create our order. The order creates the contract. We'll get into those in a future episode as well, because I still want to focus on configurations and products for now. All of the subscriptions, amendments, renewals, all that stuff is great once we have the framework and the foundation in place. And one of the places where most mistakes are made in CPQ is with the fundamental product configuration. We are often not thoughtful enough about how the products should be architected and can sometimes rush that process. But the problem with that is if you rush the definition and architecture of your products, then you're going to get sideways on your configuration, which will make you go sideways again on your pricing, which will screw up your discounting, which will make your quote document generation very difficult. Now your orders are messed up, your contracts aren't right, so renewals are wrong. It's this whole domino effect, which is why it's imperative that we have to make sure, even before we start creating products, that the configuration of the package of CPQ aligns with what the business needs it to do. And sometimes you'll get pretty far down the project before people realize, oh no, we should have configured the package differently. Now we have to redo everything, because it all starts with the roots of the tree. The roots of the tree is installing the package in the ground, so to speak. And then the products form your tree trunk. And then your configuration is your branches, and you keep going out from there. Well, if you decide later, oops, we planted the tree in the wrong spot, you're going, what do you mean you planted the tree in the wrong spot? The roots are established, the trunk is up, the tree is well underway, and now you want to uproot the tree and move it to someplace else? That's where you can run into a lot of problems. To give you some more examples of how this proration works, I'm going to adjust the subscription term, as I mentioned earlier, to 6. What we can expect to see is both the PB&J Club membership and the support values to be cut in half, and that's exactly what we see. If I instead say 18 months, we'll see it calculated similarly. If I want to do a 36-month quote for 3 years, I can quote that much. This turned into one expensive peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Faye, you have a question. You're still on mute if you're asking it. Moving right along. If you have the question again, just feel free to jump in. That's how I can mess with the subscription term. The end date, if I pick let's do something a little weird. Let's do 13 months and I calculate. Now we end up with a situation where 10.83, we got 83 cents. And that's because if you divide that 10 by 12, you get the 8.333333 infinitely.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, my mic was not working properly
Oh,
earlier.
it's
I can
fine. It
unmute it
happens
for
to me
some
all the time.
reason. All right, I have a quick question on the part, the code field set. Now, if you do a lot of the field, you added a lot of field in the field set, say you add maybe like 6 of them, right?
Mhm.
So are you able to rearrange them? Because like currently, like when I look at my own field set, I have like about 9 fields in there.
Okay.
And it doesn't seem like I can like rearrange them the way I want it.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can do it?
The short version is yes, you can rearrange it. The follow-on is, but it's annoying. And the reason it's annoying is because you have to think in terms of places. You said you have 9 fields up at the top.
Right.
I probably wouldn't go many more than that if you can help it, but it's happens quite often. You need 6 fields, you need 9 fields at the top. You want to control the order. You can. The way you have to think about it is positions 1, 2, 3, next row, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if I wanted to have 9 fields here and control exactly where they are, I need to ensure that the list here is in the sequence of those positions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's just do that as an example. We'll grab some more fields, we'll put those here, save. This is going to look ridiculous, by the way. But if I refresh my page, now I'll see all of those fields here, but it's not going to be the most intuitive. I guess it's not too bad. Bill to name, country, whatever, but our postal code. So I have to think about this in terms of, oh man, how do I actually want to see this? Well, I kind of like the way these are down here, but I actually want my additional discount here. Well, that's position 1, 2, 3. So I'll grab that additional discount here, and I'm going to move that to the 3rd position and save. But that's going to shift everything else. Now, postal code is going to shift to here. Bill to name is going to go here. This is going to go here, and it's going to look jacked up again. So then I got to think, okay, well, what do I want this to look like now? So, okay, well, this is better, but now this is weird. I don't like that. I don't like how these percent fields, these formula fields are down there. Okay, so I'm thinking UI, UX. What's going to be most intuitive? I know what I'll do. I'm going to go back into the field set and I'm going to grab these fields and I'm going to move those into positions 4, 5, and 6. Now, I see additional discount percent up here at the top. That's what the user is plugging in. I want to see this additional discount amount in dollars directly below that, which means that I need to put it in position 6. Okay, it is already in position 6. Now let's look at these. Postal code, that's not usually how we do these. Bill to name, country, city. Well, usually we have city, and then we have postal code, and then, but the postal code is going to be off in this position 10 down here, which is kind of awkward. I think I'd rather put my bill to name down here if I wanted all 10 of these fields. So let's do that. And then I save. And now when I refresh, it's going to look a little more intuitive. We've got the 3 top positions that the user enters data into, like this. And then we've got, okay, partner discount, customer discount, additional discount, and then we got our billing fields. Well, this isn't all that intuitive either, in my opinion, because of knowing the price waterfall like I do, I know that the partner discount is one of the last things to happen and that the discount amount happens before the customer discount. So I'm thinking I'm going to rearrange this row here. So, but I still want it, so as I read it from left to right and up and down, I want to follow the waterfall as much as possible. That's just it's a design decision I choose for my own projects. A lot of people don't care about that. A lot of architects, admins, consultants, developers don't really care about that, but that can be a huge impact on the end user when it's intuitive. So let's think about this for a moment. If I take additional discount amount, which happens before the customer discount, which happens before the partner discount, that means I need to switch this to position 4, this to position 6. But then this is going to still be over here unless I move it to position 1. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take additional discount and move it to position 1. I'm going to take additional discount amount and put it in position 4. And then I'm going to take partner discount, put it in position 5. And I really don't care about the bill to name. That's going to clean up the look a little bit more. I save. And now when I refresh, it's going to look a lot more appealing. So even though I have 9 fields on my page layout, and maybe build to country makes more sense off on the end, since country is kind of the last thing. Postal code comes before that in most cases, so we'll switch that. Great. I refresh. And generally, as well, just as an aside, I don't include the address fields in this page. This is just for an example. But now, I think at least, it makes a lot more sense. The fields the user is going to directly update most often are up at the top. Most frequent fields, I put them at the top. Editable fields, I put them at the top. Then we have the results of those inputs. In this case, I do a 10% discount. I calculate. Now I see, okay, this 10% resulted in $87 off of the total. The customer discount percent is 10% because that's the average customer discount, which is calculated on the quote for us. These are out of the box fields. Average partner discount. There is not a partner discount. Therefore, this is $0. And we have these. Does that help?
Yes, I have so many questions I want to ask you, but I don't want to delay your training. So,
Well, let's get them on the board then, and we could talk about them. What are the questions?
okay, if you go to the field set that you were on, you see under the line editor.
Yes.
Now, I noticed that the field you actually pick it up from quote, right? So
Yes.
in the same field set, if we navigate to account or opportunities to try to pick up the field from there, right? We would be able to add it into the field set. Am I right?
Yes. Yes, we should be able to do
Okay.
that. Let's try it out. Opportunity. I don't know. Let's do order number just to test this out. It should work. What's also fun is that there are some fields that exist on these objects that are unavailable to put in the field set. What is the solution? Make a custom field set, use that instead, and then, okay, so that's not showing up. Great.
Good to know.
I like to call these moments CPQ nuances. They drive me nuts, and it makes me think, did no one test this before they rolled it out? But
is there a reason why it's not showing up?
if you ever want to know, like, is there a reason why? It's because nobody thought about it. No one cared about that particular thing. I don't know. I could be completely wrong about that. I was not in the room when design decisions were made about CPQ, but there are so many things where I think that's just that's an oversight, that's unfinished, whatever. But you also have to remember that a lot of this product was built by one person from their car. They were building all of this by themselves in their car, and then they got outside investment later, and then it just started growing super fast. And a lot of times when you grow really, really fast, you don't have time to do things perfectly. because as the saying goes, perfect is the enemy of good as of done. But I think there's a balance, and some things are these little details that become very painful when you've done a lot of projects because you see it over and over and you're going, how is this not fixed? Well, it's just not a priority because that particular issue doesn't prevent the sale. So that's and now some of these things are being addressed in the new product that's being released called Revenue Lifecycle Management, which I can talk about maybe a little bit in a future episode, my thoughts on that. I went to a 3-day training this week on Revenue Lifecycle Management. It's the new Revenue Cloud offering. I use quotes because some elements of the package existed before this month when it was in the release notes, but it's being packaged up and thought of in a way where it's a new product. It's a whole new thing. We're trying to revamp it, create new functions, reach parity of old functions. So when you see one person noted on a chatter post that I commented on that the marketing pages seem very similar between CPQ and billing and revenue lifecycle management, and that's because there's a lot of overlap. The functions that are being addressed with the new product, revenue lifecycle management, are very similar and sometimes exactly the same. Product bundles, configurations, pricing and discounting, subscriptions, all of these things are going to appear in that new product as well, including billing eventually. And that's why they seem so strikingly similar, is because in a way they are, which is where in previous episodes I've talked about how we need to focus on principles over products, because the products will change. Salesforce was not the first CRM. SteelBrick was not the first CPQ tool. There will be more CRMs in the future. There will be more quoting tools in the future. There will be more billing systems in the future. If we instead focus our attention on the principles, what is being achieved with this product? In the case of CPQ, I'm able to help my sales reps figure out what they should sell, how they should sell it. I can automatically price and discount those things, submit for all these things will be common across multiple products. And that's fine. Like all the CRMs, you got accounts, you got contacts, you got opportunities. There's nothing original there. You know, Salesforce has accounts, contacts, opportunities, leads. So do other CRMs. So then what become the differentiating factors? That depends on the product. What are the capabilities, limitations, etc. That depends on the product. But if we focus on the principle that companies want to track the businesses with whom they do business, the people who work there, the deals they're trying to close, the leads that come in from conferences, websites, whatever. If we focus on those principles, then the tool doesn't matter so much. One of the risks we face as professionals is relying too much on the product and the tool to make our career. It's that whole idea of, while the blacksmith was trying to perfect the horseshoe, the car was invented, So, but at the same time, if we think about the principle of horses and cars, the principle is that this human being needs to get from point A to point B. If we understand that will take us a lot further over a longer period of time. It's more evergreen. It's more, it's one of those fundamental truths of the universe, and that's where, until businesses stop doing complex deals with other businesses, there will be a need for some sort of configuration tool. There will be need for direct sales. Self-service is another common use case. E-commerce is not going away. Sure, you got Shopify and B2B and B2C commerce from Salesforce. You've got Oracle commerce and you've got this commerce and this commerce. The principle, though, is people buy things on the internet. So how can I help people buy things on the internet regardless of what the tool is? Sometimes the tool might just be an email address and a PayPal account. Sometimes it might be, with my career coaching, for example, in order to book a career coaching time with me, I use Calendly and a Stripe integration. Well, if Calendly goes out of business, I'll find another scheduling tool, because the principle is I need a scheduling application that removes the back and forth emails. So if somebody wants to book a career coaching call with me, for example, they pay with their credit card via Stripe, and then they can book the time that they want. And until the swipey happens, no bookie happens. That's how it works. So how can you we always want to focus on the principle of gravity, not the specific object that broke your foot, so to speak. That's what I use in jujitsu class as a metaphor. Anyway, that's a whole lot of talking, but hopefully it was helpful. I'll quick save this. I saved that. Cool. Now we have a more holistic view of our quote. We have a couple more knobs and levers that we can twist, turn, pull here on the quote. And I'm going to take the next 5 minutes to what am I going to take the next 5 minutes to? I don't even know. I thought I had something to say, but I didn't have something to say because I was realizing we're almost up on time. So we didn't get too in depth with the subscription products and how they work. Perhaps that would be good for maybe the next session to really go into detail on the package settings and how those work and how to set up subscription products in the fields that matter. But this is the peanut butter and jelly sandwich now. I have the ability to sell as many peanut butter and jelly sandwiches as I want with quantities of memberships independent. I only want 57 memberships, and my support's always the same. Maybe I only want 5 of these, but for whatever reason, I want 57 of these. Now you can start to play with things. And because of the previous configurations we have of these products, whether or not the quantities are editable, where the quantities are editable, we now empower the user to do what they want. But it's kind of like in a magic show, they're holding the deck of cards and they say, pick a card, any card, but don't let me see it. But already from the start, it's a sham. They already know what card you're going to pick, or they force you to pick the card they want you to pick. That's part of the game. So in a magic show, the person who is getting tricked thinks it's their choice. I'm choosing this card. No, you're not. You're choosing the card the magician wanted you to choose, but you don't even know it. It's the same principle here. The user thinks they have the power of choice. They think they can do whatever they want with this quantity, but they can't. These quantities are dependent on this one. This one functions independently. They can't change this one at all. That's where we're the magician and we are making all this cool stuff happen, and everybody's mesmerized by it and feels empowered. And we are, to a degree, empowering them. Do whatever you want within the box, but we have to define what the box is, how the box behaves, whether there are doors outside to get out of the box, what happens if you go through that door, approval process, things like that. But that's kind of how I think about this. Hopefully that's helpful. Any questions on what we've talked about today?
No, you're very clear. That's just a lot of like nuances I can tell from the field set.
Yeah.
And the
And that's just
question,
one field set on one object, and there's all sorts of other things. I'll have content for this
I look at the three field
forever.
sets. I'm sorry, it's 3 field sets, right?
Mhm.
How do we know which one that we are using?
That's where some of the descriptions can help. In this case, the line editor field set is for the line editor user interface. Now, there is another line editor field set on the quote line object that controls the columns that display for the quote lines. The line editor field set on the quote object controls the quote header information that's available inside the quote line editor screen like we see here. The line editor field set on the quote line object determines which fields display across the top. If I wanted to, for example, I want my product name on the far left. I want my product code over here. Very simple change to make. We go to the quote line object, navigate to the field set. You'll see there are even more. We've got 7 here. They all do different things. We could talk about those later. But I go to the line editor field set, I move this around, the name and the code. Fantastic. Now when I refresh the page, you'll see those two columns flipped. But you might have use cases where the user either should be empowered to change. Maybe you have a couple different settings that you want where the user can change which fields display, maybe based on the type of opportunity it is. You want to show different things. For example, let's say you're Salesforce and you sell software and services to implement the software. The service salespeople probably don't care about some of the software fields, and the software salespeople probably don't care about some of the service fields. The exception would be if you're selling both at the same time. That's a different scenario. But let's just say we're keeping those in their two silos. Software salespeople sell software, service people sell services, and never overlapping either, for the sake of argument. You could actually have two different field sets that are used by each part of the business and then drive that using other Salesforce CPQ functionality called special fields. And these special fields, there are several of them. They're actually officially called special fields. They will allow you to do different things from changing which columns display, which field sets are referenced for the quote lines, to changing the sequence of the price waterfall, to adding a description field on the product features so you know what to do during configuration. Maybe you add some instructions during configuration. There are a number of them, probably 20 or so, 15 to 20 special fields. Maybe there's more. Not all of them are documented, big surprise, but they do exist. They're there somewhere. And that's another thing to think about. But field sets are a really important part of this. And I always implore people to really think about the function that you're trying to meet. Form follows function. What is the best user experience? Because if it's not a good user experience, the user won't use it. I came across somebody recently whose company wants to get rid of Salesforce CPQ because no rep used it. They implemented it. They've had it over a year and no rep uses it, which to me, that's just red flag city. Wait a minute, you bought these licenses, you paid money to implement it, and no one ever used it? What was your change management plan? Isn't this where the leaders in the business go? I don't care if you like it, you're going to use it. And who's really running the company here? You or the salespeople? And I mean, salespeople need to be able to speak their piece, but at the same time, if we want to standardize our sales methodologies, then you're going to implement constraints. That's just how it goes. You cannot have standardization without applying constraints. And it's impossible. If there are no constraints, there are no standards. I don't know if that's helpful. It was mostly a rant, but I hope it helped.
Yeah. I know you have to go. I want to be sensitive of your time.
Yeah.
So if I can push in one last question.
Yeah, sure.
Again, when
this is the time I had planned for editing the video anyway, so I'm still going to work on this. It's fine. Plus, we didn't really start for the first 15 minutes. So there's about 15 or 20 minutes that Kranti and I were just talking that I'm going to cut out. So this will bring us up to an hour. It's totally fine.
Awesome. Now, if we create new field set, well, go back again. Is the field set that you show me, are they all preset when the CPQ is installed, or is this something that somebody has created, like say the line editor, somebody is already preset, is there when you install the packet?
Yes, all of these 7 and the 3 that you saw in the quote object are pre-configured and installed as part of the package. And the reason I know that is because the dead giveaway of the API name. Any piece of metadata where you see SBQQ __ 2 underscores followed by whatever it is, that was installed by the managed package. This gets into the idea of managed and unmanaged packages. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay, so CPQ is a managed package. Therefore, you have to use a namespace. And the namespace for CPQ is SPQQ, which was originally steel brick quote quickly. And that's where that acronym came from. So that's the namespace of the package. That's why the quote line object, the fields, the field sets, all of these different elements will have that appended because they're installed as part of the package. We
So if
can
we do,
add to this and create our own, but these are what you get out of the box.
so if we do create a new field set,
Mhm.
how do we actually make the CPQ determine which field set to use?
And that's where we get into the special fields. Salesforce, CPQ, special fields. And these are the special fields. There's a whole bunch of them. This list is longer than I remember. But you have a whole bunch of options here. Now, the particular field set that you have in mind, or if you're wanting to change, it sounds like you want the ability to change either automatically or manually which columns display for the quote lines. Is that the correct assumption?
Oh, no, I was just curious if there's a possibility to do that. What
It
is the
is.
capability of the CPQ?
Yep. The capability of the CPQ tool is, and here's your field set that you want. Dynamically change the column. You could also manually change. So this is a little bit misleading, but you would create a field on the quote object called edit lines field set name. It has to be exactly spelled like this. So use this article. I'll put the link in the chat. Use this article if you want to use this. But this will allow you to either dynamically via formula field or manually via pick list field tell CPQ which of my quote line field sets I want to use. Let's just say, going back to the previous example, you're Salesforce and you sell software and you sell services, and you want to show completely different fields for both of those. When it comes to the software, you want to show things like the start and end dates of each line. And when it's services, you want to show something like the resource level, whether it's architect, consultant, or analyst, for example. In that case, I would have two different field sets. Each one has its own fields of what it's going to show. And then if you want those to show automatically, maybe you have on your opportunity, you have a field called opportunity type, which is out of the box, and you have software and services. Those are your two values. And then you have a cross object formula field, which could be what this is. You create your edit lines field set, name formula field that references the opportunity type field. And then if the value of the type field is software, then you'll display the software field set. If the value is services, you'll display the services field set. And now the user doesn't have to change anything. They go to the screen and the correct fields display. They don't have to change anything. They don't have to remember to do something. It's just done for them. Whenever I can, I try to do things for the user and just do it for them. If you do it for them, they will love you for it. Because as I've joked about in the past, anything that exists, any extra step between I exist on this earth and I get my full commission, that's a pain in the ass for a sales rep. So we want to eliminate as many extra steps as we can, because selling is hard enough. Your head is constantly on a chopping block. You've got people breathing down your neck all the time. Let's remove extra stress. The less we have to remember, the less we have to make decisions. All of those things will improve our performance, and it keeps our emotional bandwidth more open so we can think about our mental emotional bandwidth more open so we can focus on other things. Strategizing about how I'm going to close this deal, pulling in the right people to collaborate on getting this thing across the finish line. Let's have our sellers using their energy on those things and less energy on how do I do this in CPQ? Oh, I forgot what I got to click. Well, now I got to go email my admin, or I got to submit a ticket, or I got to just read the documentation. Let's get rid of as much of that as possible and just make it impossible to do it wrong and super easy to do it right, almost enjoyable. And at that point, then you're everybody's hero because everything's in compliance, you're aligning with the business process, it's easy for the users, and then you get to sit back and you have less cases coming in or less tickets or emails, whatever it is that you use to track issues. And I would definitely encourage you to not use an email inbox for this. But whatever that looks like for you and your business, you spend, as an admin, you spend more time improving the system even more and less time troubleshooting stuff that doesn't need to be an issue in the first place. And with that, I'm going to end. Thank you, everybody, for joining this week. Join me next week for another thrilling episode of Salesforce Revenue Cloud Office Hours. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to email me. You can go to garvinsconsulting.com and just put your question in the form there. Email it to me, john.garvins@garvinsconsulting.com. That works too. One of these days, I'll come up with a more sophisticated process. Maybe it'll be a form, maybe a form on the website or a page that's just office hours. You go to that page, you fill out the form, put your question in, and then I'll get those in somehow. I don't know. There's probably a better way to do it, but for now, that's what we'll do. Just send me an email. What was that?
You have a Slack group.
I do have a Slack group full of some of the world's best Salesforce Revenue Cloud architects that are all my friends. So whenever I get stuck on stuff, I have this whole army of experts to ask, which is really nice. Because I don't know everything. I am not the best Revenue Cloud architect on the earth. I'm not the best Revenue Cloud consultant on the earth. But I know the ones who are, and that's a really convenient thing. And with that, I will talk to everybody next week. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.